I'm Becky from the Cary Library, and today I'm going to teach you a little bit about the art of needle felting and show you how to make this adorable chipmunk. For all needle felting projects, you'll need a foam board on which to work, a special needle, and wool roving. For this particular project, we need wool roving in tan, brown, white, and black. Needle felting is a fiber craft where you sculpt loose wool roving into different shapes using a barbed needle. This is what the needle looks like. You can see it has small edges on the tip. Those are the barbs. Initially, wool roving is loose and kind of looks like cotton candy. When needle felting, you use your hands to shape the wool and then the barbed needle to get the wool to stay in your desired shape. The barbs on the needle tangle the wool fibers, and over time, the fibers will tangle and tighten into a permanent shape. In this first step, we're going to make the main shape of our chipmunk, which will kind of look like a tater tot. So we're going to use our tan wool. I'm going to separate it, so I'm using about this much. And I'm going to fold it in half. This will be the top of my chipmunk. And then I'm going to take these edges and tuck them under. So overall what I have is a kind of ovular tater tot type shape. And then we're going to start poking it with our needle. Now, as you're poking, you want to kind of continuously move your needle around so you're poking all over, and then you'll want to flip your shape so that way you're getting all sides of it evenly. And you kind of want to, as you're going, think about how the shape is looking every once in a while and see if you want to change it. So right now I'm going to scrunch it down a little bit and then keep going. You can see as you're doing that, it is starting to stay in the shape that we chose, but we're going to have to do it for quite a bit longer to get the full shape that we want. All right, so now we have our nice tater tot shape. You want your felt to also feel still squishy at this point, but as you can see, it's quite a bit firmer than when it's completely loose wool roving. And now we can start building our face. So the main part of the chipmunk's face is a giant set of cheeks. I was inspired by pictures I saw of actual chipmunks for this project, and I found some great ones where they have food stuffed in their cheeks, making their cheeks look huge. So to build these, we're going to add them on. We're going to build to balls with white wool roving, and then we'll add these on to the face and then add a nose, eyes, ears, and other little details. So to make the ball, you can kind of just roll a ball in your hands and then begin poking. And again, you want to kind of turn it evenly as you go to make it a nice round shape. You want to kind of compare, and that could definitely work. This one I think needs a little bit more. Okay, so now we're doing our second one. Okay, so once you have the balls, you can put them where you want them to be. You'll want to leave room on the top of the chipmunk for its eyes and its ears. So like here will be the head, and then you can add the cheeks on. They will shrink down a little bit as you get them poked in, but just place them where you want to be and start poking. Okay, we have some large cheeks. So now we're going to build his nose, and what we need is another piece of wool roving that goes between the cheeks to kind of make that like little bridge. So we're just going to take a little bit of white wool roving and kind of fold it into a rectangle kind of shape, and we'll just set it between the cheeks and felt that into place. Kind of reminds me of a bow, where you can think of each cheek as a big part of the bow and this as the center bit of the bow that kind of holds everything down and together. Now that you have these on, you kind of want to look around at the rest of your chipmunk and see how did the rest of its body change as you added these on, and what do you need to do to get the overall shape back to where you want it to be. So I'm just going to kind of poke around a little bit and try and even things out. Okay, now on my chipmunk's face, he has kind of a V of brown fur that moves up from the nose and around the side of the head. So that's what I'm going to add next. So I'll take some brown wool roving, kind of took a piece and folded it in the center to kind of build that V shape. Then I'll place it on my chipmunk's head, see where I want it to be, and then start poking it into place. Now the next thing I did was I took a little bit more tan and I brought it over the edge of the cheeks, so that way it really helped the face overall look like the cheeks are part of the face, kind of that he has so many nuts in his mouth that he's not just having big cheeks, his whole face is swollen from it. So that's what adding a little strip of tan there kind of helps incorporate that together. So we'll just take a little bit of tan, place it over the cheek like that, and you can see that that helps blend everything. So once again, as you're doing all of this, you want to keep checking in and see how has adding these parts affected the whole chipmunk overall, and then work at adjusting things so that way overall you are getting the look you want. So that's what I'm going to do now. If areas need to be smaller or a slightly different shape, you can poke those areas to tighten the wool roving and adjust the shape. If something is too small, you can take additional wool roving and add it on. So right now I'm adding a bit more brown wool roving there to try and get a little slope up that goes to where his nose will be. All right, so now we're going to add our nose and then eyes. So for the nose, we're going to take a little bit of black wool roving and we're going to roll it into a ball between our fingers. If you can, make one part of it thinner and another part wider because we want our nose to kind of be a triangle shape. So we're going to place it where our brown wool roving meets our white wool roving, and we'll tack it into place. Now when you're doing something like the nose, where you kind of have firm lines, you can take your needle and poke right across that line to help make it a really bold stopping point between two colors. So now I do still need to give him a mouth, but I'm gonna move on to the eyes. So that way kind of like my whole face shape is done before I put on the mouth because it's such a fine detail. So for the eyes, we're going to first put white circles down and then put black circles on top of them. So for the white circle, take some white wool roving, roll it between your fingers, and kind of test out how that shape is before you start poking it to see, do you have enough? Do you have too much? I had a little bit more than I wanted. Okay, and then place it and start again. You can poke around the edges. Okay, then we're going to do our second eye in the same way. As you're doing this, you'll want to compare your second eye to your first eye to try and make sure the sizes are somewhat similar. So let's say one eye was completely the wrong shape and you didn't like it. At this point, it's not so firmly in that you can't fix it. You can take the wool roving and pull it right out and then start over. I feel like this one's cheeks are too big.
It's extra nuts.
Okay. And then again, as always, since you just added a new part of the face, see how that affects the overall face shape, and then go through and make some adjustments. I feel like his head actually needs a little bit more oomph to it. So I'm adding some wool roving back in because I felt like as I added all of those facial features, the whole head kind of shrunk, and I want it to be a little bit wider. Okay, so I added some more tan on his face. I like the overall shape quite a bit more now. So now I'll go ahead and I'll add pupils in his eyes. So you'll take black wool roving for the pupils, roll it into a little ball, set it over the white, make sure you kind of like the size, and then go ahead and poke it in. And you'll do the same thing for the other eye. Okay, so now we'll want to kind of finalize some of the little details around the face. So he has small brown stripes coming out from the sides of his eyes. We'll want to make sure that this V looks nice and neat around the sides, and then add the mouth. So I'm going to start, I think, making sure that the V looks nice and neat. So it kind of arches down a little bit to the side of the face following the line that the eyes make, and then scoops towards the back. You can set the wool roving where you want it to be and use your needle to kind of draw that line of where you want what is essentially his hairline to be. Okay, then I'm going to take a little bit of brown and add, see, a streak coming from the side of his eyes around. I'm actually going to tuck it under the cheek right there and then bring it around, and it comes all the way over and into the larger portion of brown. Okay, so now I'll add his ears. To make ears, we're going to take a little bit of wool roving, fold it in half so we have a nice top part of our ear. Just kind of lightly felt that. Set it where we want it to be and tack it into place. Okay, I'm going to do the other ear, same way. I still need to do his mouth, but I want to wait to do that till the very end, just because it's such a fine detail that as things kind of change, it could get lost, so I'm going to wait for that till the very, very end. Now we're going to add our arms, legs, and tail, but before we can do that, we have to create a little white belly. So we're going to take some of our white wool roving, use our hands to make it a circle, and then place that where we want it to be. And then tack it into place. Alright, now we will add arms and legs. So we're going to take some tan wool roving, fold it over on itself a few times so we get a nice thick rectangle. Then we'll kind of solidify that shape. Then place it on our chipmunk's body for his arm. We kind of want him to be kind of holding his belly. When I do appendages, while I felt the whole thing, I pay extra attention to the edges where they meet the body, so that way I can make sure it doesn't just get lost in with the rest of the body, that there's kind of a defined edge and a defined bump where the arm is. For the end part, that can just kind of get felted into the rest of the body, so it kind of just gradually disappears. But for the main part, we want it to be very defined. Okay, for our chipmunk's foot, he just has little feet that are popping out from underneath him. So we just need to take some tan wool roving, fold it over so we get a nice edge there. Then once we have that shape, we can put it right there and then felt it to the bottom of our chipmunk. You want to make sure that it will kind of just poke out. As you're doing this, you'll also want to try and make sure that the bottom of your chipmunk is pretty flat, so that way he can stand independently. Okay, and then you'll do the same thing to add a second arm and a second foot. Okay, so now we will create our chipmunk's tail. So we're gonna want a nice big piece of tan wool roving. Gonna kind of fold it over and then start poking it. For long pieces like this, sometimes you can take it and twist it a little and then poke it some more. Now we're going to connect our tail and we want it to kind of wrap around. I actually think that mine is long enough that I can tuck some of that in for some added bulk. Then I will place it where I want it to be, in the center of his back. And then take it and kind of tuck it around here. So there we can see he has his tail. But having it tucked like that keeps it into like one nice little piece, and it helps add some stability so that way he sits up, well, almost. He's a little top heavy right now, but someday he'll be able to sit up on his own. All right, and then we need to add the stripes down the back of our chipmunk. So chipmunks kind of have one black stripe down the center and then a white stripe that is kind of outlined in black stripes as well. And they also have brown and black that goes onto their tail. So I'm just going to kind of show you how you would do this, but I'm not going to do the whole thing right now. So first you want to make sure that you have a nice brown base. So if the brown on the back of your chipmunk is uneven, you'll want to add a little bit more, so get a nice base. And then I'm going to take some black, and you just take a little bit in your hands, kind of twist it so it forms a line. Then you just place that where you want it to be and tack it into place. If you have an extra strip like that at the end, you can just trim that off with some scissors. But that is pretty much it. Then you'll do the same thing with the white. Then the last thing we have to add is his mouth. It's very similar to the stripes, where you take a little bit of wool roving in your hand and roll it to make a line. Then place it where you want it to be. Tack it into place. And then trim it with some scissors, which I don't have with me at the moment, so I can't show you, but you'd want to trim that. And that's all the steps that you need to make a chipmunk. The last finishing touches, like how do you get it to go from this to this? It's really just about the amount of time that you want to spend continuing to poke and just slowly like reshape things, get all of the fuzz to go down. To do that, you just keep poking and poking until you're happy with how it looks, and then you're done. Thanks for crafting with me today. I hope you enjoyed creating this project as much as I did. Please feel free to share your final projects with the library on social media, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and I hope to craft with you again soon.